All right. Hello there, and welcome to today's stream. If you caught me yesterday, you saw me introduce Spline, or reintroduce Spline. Essentially, a program here that allows you to use 3D models for web-based applications. So if you want to check out the initial sort of breakdown on this, you can check out the stream from yesterday. But today, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be creating or converting this model to be able to bring it into Spline and be able to use it as a well-performing model for this sort of application. So this can be done for products, this can be done for anything really that's well explained or well received in 3D, and you want to just create a sort of landing page for something. So let's say like this was maybe like the release of a new car, or maybe a online car community like Garage XYZ. Shout out to you guys. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So we've got this car file, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a save as so I don't ruin this original one. Let's see here. There it is. I've just realized my mic is picking up the music. There you go. That should be better. Okay. And after we've done a save as, we basically have to start breaking down each part of this vehicle. And as I understand it, it's better, you don't want to have too many parts, but it's better to have a part that has a lot of faces be split into two parts than to have one giant piece that has way too many faces. So if I hit tab into this shape, that's a lot of faces, you know? It's a really well-made model. It's got seams on these blue lines and everything. So we want to sort of keep some of that object data. But I do need to reduce the amount of faces this has because it's going to be way heavy on the online experience. It's going to take a while to load and may not be smooth. So I'm going to do a modifier basically. And this is sort of like, this is short of like rebuilding a part, right? Like maybe the best approach for some things would be to just rebuild it with less faces. But for something that has really good topology like this, I'm going to take a crack at using the modifier decimate, which is essentially the opposite of a subdivide. So we can actually do an unsubdivide operation here and choose an iteration. And we can see here we're decreasing the face counts. So at 0 iterations of the unsubdivide, we have a face count of 61,163. If we do one more, that almost halved it right there. But if you noticed, it did start to break our model. So we can see here, if I go back one iteration, that's pretty clean and smooth. This is not. And unfortunately, that's just going to be the case for some of these geometries. So we could do a shade smooth by right-clicking on the object. And if it's already shade smooth, we could try shading it flat. So if we shade it flat, we start to see every individual face, which is not what we want. So we want to keep it to shade, maybe shade auto smooth. It still sort of has these weird moments. I'm going to try, instead of unsubdivide, collapse. Because here we have the face count for collapse as well. And we can set a symmetry on an axis. So say we want to set symmetry on the y-axis. So essentially it's going to remove faces evenly on an axis, rather than if I'm taking away faces, not have it take more faces away from one side of the model than the other and leaving it looking uneven. So I'll activate symmetry here. And as I take down the faces, this is a ratio, right? So rather than an iteration of the process, it's by ratio. So here I went from 61 to 50,000, which is still way too much. Like really the amount of faces that I want is something closer to like under 20,000, which if I were to bring it that low, actually it's not too bad. We almost broke the 22,000 mark there. Okay, so that's 19,000. So yeah, some of the parts aren't looking that great and shaded, but it's also it doesn't like destroy it. It's not terrible. I can always hit tab. Well, in order to actually see what this is doing, which ultimately you can do one of two things. So I hover over here over decimate and hit Control A. That applies the modifier to that geometry so that if I hit tab, I can now see how it unsubdivided the model. I can also see that it is not in fact symmetrical. So I might have picked the wrong axes to do that on. Let's undo bring back that modifier, switch it over to the x-axis symmetry, hit Control A, tab, and now that looks symmetrical. Yep, so we can see like the visors, we see these 3 awkward faces right here are the same on both sides. Okay, so that's probably better. You still get some of those weird lines. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to split this object in 2 before I do my decimate, right? That way, hopefully I only have to unsubdivide maybe half as much as I'm doing. So I'll undo to bring that back. And this should be the only model I'm going to have to solve that for. There we go. And we'll deactivate that modifier for now, just turning it off like that. I'm going to do a Boolean modifier before the decimate operation. And I'm also going to bring in a cube and make it very large and have it cover half my model. I'm gonna hit, maybe not exactly half. You gotta be sort of like strategic with where you do the split here. I'm maybe gonna do like just in front of those wings, those side wings, and before this seam right here. So it's not even by any means, but I feel like the front has the most amount of detail and it'll pack a lot of faces in there. So let's try that. We'll do Boolean and we'll do difference and we'll set this. All right, so now we just have the front isolated. I'm going to copy paste that front piece of the body. Oops, I think I copy pasted my cube as well. Okay, so there's my full body that does not have, right? We have 2 here, body and body 001. One has the difference Boolean modifier, the other one has the Boolean difference modifier, but no object assigned to it yet. So I'll just set this one to intersect instead and set that same cube, and boom, now I have my other half. Now I just apply that. So I hit Control A and that's applied, and I hit Control A, that's applied. I can, whoops, not delete the front, delete the cube. And okay, we get a seam, all right? It's not perfect, so maybe, you know, pick somewhere where the seam will be less obvious. I think at a first glance, you kind of buy it. So, you know, I'm okay with it. We also see the seam because we're in solid view. If I were to change the material preview or rendered view, ideally, you know, this is as perfect as a seam where it doesn't really show up. So yeah, I don't think it will. As I go here into material preview, the seam seems to be exactly perfect. Now the hard part here is going to be to retain that, or the tricky part here is to retain that when we do the decimate. Hey there, General 8. Nice to see you on the chat. I don't know what emoji that is. It looks like a flamenco dancing character. Okay, so, but yeah, nice to see you back on the stream, back on the chat. We got our seam here, we just did our Boolean, now we want to do our decimate. Before I do that, I'm going to take out some insurance. I'm going to go into edge mode here in edit mode, hit alt click to select this whole side, right click and hit mark seam. That'll kind of turn it red, which I think what I want is mark sharp. Is that what I want? Mark sharp. Yes, mark sharp. That's what all these blue lines all over this model are set, which is not really a sharp edge, but I do have to set it to that so that as I decimate, hopefully it, you know, keeps that edge more or less intact. So we'll go back to decimate, re-enable that. We see there, we kind of broken off one face. So I have to bring it back. There we go. I want to bring it back from the decimate modifier just before it breaks the model. So that's looking a little bit better. And we only have 6,000 faces on this front. So hopefully that doesn't reflect poorly on the back piece of this one. Okay, so not as much weird shading, still some triangulation on those side wings, but something's gotta give, right? If I bring this back all the way, I'm basically reconstructing the entire thing. Let's try unsubdivide with one iteration. See, it's cleaner on the front, but not as clean on the seams over here. So for the sake of this video, I'm gonna keep it to this, but ideally what I'd do is I would do the collapse feature for this nose piece, because right there I've gotten rid of a lot of faces, but it's still looking pretty good at around a 0.5 ratio. But then this is all triangulated, right? Not looking great. So what I would do to the nose piece is then do an unsubdivide, right? Or you can also try planar, which planar is good for when you just have like a bunch of faces that are basically just one face, and you might as well just turn all those faces into just one square one or whatever. But not the case here, maybe in a different situation. But yeah, like as you do different booleans, you can do different decimation types to optimize for that. But I'm gonna eat it with these triangles on the nose just for efficiency's sake and apply that. Move on to the back, apply the decimate. Oh, actually, I don't need to apply the modifier. So I can come back and edit it if I wish, and I'll explain why later. We don't need to apply it though. That's what you should know this time. So we'll decimate this one, enable it, and set that ratio to something we can be happy with while staying under a 20K face count. Maybe try the unsubdivide feature. That's much cleaner. It doesn't get us under 20K. One iteration gets us to 12, and that's still looking much cleaner than collapsing. So I'll keep that one at that. All right, so here's the tricky part. Or the painful part, I should say. I'd love to keep these, right? But the reality is, either I just decimate them to where they're nothing, like if I did the decimate, like really I just take it down to like a square, or like just a few faces, right? Like those are 57 faces, maybe a little bit higher, 115 faces. Can I do without it? If the answer is yes, delete it. Like like this bolt here, gone. If it doesn't like do anything for the model, like just get rid of it. You know, if I make this simpler, and again, it's like those things maybe could be rebuilt to have less faces, and the whole model could be super tailored to like meet that minimum criteria for performance on Spline or on your web-based interaction. But you know, these aren't like perfect like detailed like realistic 3D models, or that's not the intention I have with this. The intention I have is basically telling a story, right, with a landing page, which if you got to keep it around 15 megabytes for a file, 15 megabytes is light, right? So we'll actually do, if I do a save as again, we can check the size of this file. Right now we're almost at 60 megs, right? So we have a little bit of work in front of us. I'm just gonna quickly go through and just start adding decimates to everything and just collapsing these. So tires are the most forgiving because you can almost get rid of all the faces and it's still pretty much just a cylinder. You could also, once I have it set on that one, I can select the other tires and then select this one I just decimated last, hit Control L, copy modifiers, and now they all collapsed the same amount. I'm going to do the same thing for these rims, so I can select them all first as well. It's going to show up only on the last one that I selected. And I'm going to do decimate, bring down that ratio. I typically just take it down to 0 and break it, and then just start building it back up to the minimum that I need. So maybe like there. That's not terrible. And then Control L, copy modifiers. Then they've all decimated the same. Same thing for this green. I hate that it's green. I don't know if it's actually intended to be green. No, it's supposed to be an image. I think the images just got unlinked from this file, or just different directory. That's fine. We got to do all our materials in Spline anyway. At least that's the more optimized way that I've seen, or that I've tested out. Yeah, you can bring in images for your textures, and that looks super nice. But it's way heavier. You got to bring those images along. So like, yeah, the caliber at full resolution is this. Super cool, super great. But I learned this from a floor installer 6 feet away. So if I get 6 feet away, and you can't see the imperfection, you're not fixing it. So let's take this all the way down till its most recognizable shape. That's fine. That's 60 faces right there. Maybe even take a little bit more to 60 faces is fine out of 1,726 that it had. So again, compounding effects here. So 60 faces is all I need to like really understand what that is. Copy modifiers. Same thing for the can I get rid of any of this? Should I? If I delete that. Yeah, it adds to it, I guess. Let's try keeping it. And we'll do a decimate. Yeah, that little bit. Generally in the chat, hey man, just finished watching your previous Spline vid. You're pumping them out. I just finished doing a 3GS website myself, so it is conditional. Man, I'd love for you to share that link. I'd love to check it out. I could even check it out here on stream if you'd like. That's awesome. I've been in love with 3GS ever since I saw it come out, and it's one of the main reasons I'm considering, I don't actually know that I will, but learning to code. I've been having a lot of coding classes pop up in my everything lately, specific for design. And yikes, I don't know, maybe I need to like, I have like this fantasy of like just not running into, but somehow coming up with something that makes a ton of money, where I have just a couple of million chilling in the bank, and I could just be like, what's next? What am I going to spend the next year learning so that I could do something with it later? And my answer for that is coding, some form of it. Control L, copy modifiers. Okay. Generate. Oh god, I literally finished it an hour ago, still has some bugs. Hey man. Everything's got a bug. What is that saying? It's not a bug, it's a feature. That's what you gotta say. I mean, hey man, whenever you feel okay with it, because it's nothing's perfect. Whenever you're good with it, send it over. I'd love to check it out. And EM in the chat. Thanks for the wave. Always nice to see you in here. You might have noticed I'm deleting these golden clips, because I decided they don't even look good. So like, I'm sure they're real and functional and whatnot, but like, whatever. I don't think it adds too much. All right, that was pretty quick for the tires, because the tires are generally the most detailed thing, saved for like these nuts and bolts and stuff, which honestly we could probably do without. Like, that's a lot of, if I go to decimate here, 7,000 faces. It's not terrible if I can take it down to, and notice, like, I guess this is a trade-off. It's 200 faces for 16 nuts and bolts, so that's fine. I'll keep it looking like janky, maybe a little bit more defined. Yeah, I'll take the hit for that. That looks pretty nice against the black metal here. Let's take that down. Okay. Let's take this down. That's a lot of stuff. So like, another thing to consider is like, how many faces do you want? Like, yeah, you want it to look good, but also consider that, like, you know, there's a bunch of objects being accounted for in the face count here. So hopefully that loads okay. Cool thing about Spline is it lets you run an analysis and see what it is that's kind of bogging your file down. Whoops, I accidentally applied there. Do I need these? How many faces am I taking because of this? Yeah, I'm gonna delete this. That's fine. Okay. Very, very complex object all joined into one. Fantastic. I just wanted to look sort of cylindrical, and I'm guessing that this is shading flat, maybe not, but if I hit shade smooth, yeah, it was shading flat, so, or semi-flat. So if I hit shade flat, we get all the jank, we get all the hard edges. If I hit right click and shade smooth, it's just gonna smoothen it out. It looks cleaner, except for the the edges we've marked as sharp as we did earlier. So that's fine. Let's get onto these tubes. Bam. All right. I'm gonna quickly check and see how much we've taken out from the file. So it's not really fair, the measurement that I did earlier on the file size, because when we export the Blender file, it's not like a one-to-one thing. It's not like what the Blender file is, that's what our export's gonna be. Here we've got 60 megs on the blend file. Applying the modifiers would be a way to lighten the Blender file, but what I want to do here is actually just select the whole car, at least what's visible of it. I'm going to delete the helmet because there's no... A lot of people haven't noticed this because I've used this model of a car for a couple projects and rendered it a lot, and this helmet is always there, but the angles that I pick, you can't really tell. There's no there's no person there. Even when you view it from above, you kind of have to really pay attention to the seat to realize there's no person. So that's just kind of been funny. If you look at my content or my stuff and you look for renders of this car, you'll notice it's just a floating helmet everywhere. Which honestly I could have solved for a long time ago, but nobody noticed. If I end up... Generally it says, if I end up going to the site, one of the bugs is that it takes 10 seconds-ish to load, just so you know. I feel for that, man. My portfolio homepage ended up taking a little bit to load, which is why I added a loading screen. Because a pretty cool loading screen is impressive. Like people, when people type in a website, I don't know, I've noticed that as a reaction to my own site, but I highly appreciate it out of the Webflow websites I've seen. Those that have like pretty neat or elegant or creative loading pages, as I know that the awesomeness is being generated behind it, is appreciated. And I've noticed that just from the response I've gotten on my own site. It's just having a loading screen is like, okay, what's going on? I was gonna do a size test, but then I found more things in the front to decimate. Oh, these things can always be a nightmare because they never look great. I think we're doing both sides here. Yep. Yeah, they're not gonna be circles, but you know. Okay, we'll select everything, file, export. Maybe we're at size, we'll see. We'll do the GLTF format. That's the best I've been able to figure out so far. You could do FBX too, if it somehow comes out smaller than that. Include selected objects only. There's an area here for materials. I am going to do no export on materials because I'm going to set it all in Spline, and I just end up deleting a bunch of materials I don't want to use if I set placeholders. So export, and you can usually tell how big the file is going to be by how long it takes to export. So that was honestly quite a bit. Oh my goodness, 18.4, so 18 megabytes. That is like right on the border, like right on the edge of acceptable for Spline, as I've seen. So let's test it out. We'll do a new, I had created a new file. I'm gonna go ahead and do new, oh, it was right there, dang it. Well, now it's just gonna be blank because I missed the home screen. But what I wanted to do is select one of the presets that just has a lot of it already embedded. So we'll do, or maybe we could do something cool like one of these, just kind of delete what's there. Like this one has a lot of stuff going on and has like mechanics. So let's drop it in here. I'm gonna delete a bunch of stuff out of here. But maybe also let's bring up that blank file. We can try it in both. We could try it in here and we could try it in a blank. So in the blank, we're gonna go down to the bottom left and hit import and look for our file. Generally it says your loading screen is not cool though, or that's what my loading screen is not cool, your words. Next step is to make a better loading page. Hey, if you built a site, a 3D interactive site with 3GS, I think the loading screen is the easy part. All right, Let's import this car. All right, that was pretty smooth. Let's take a look around. Yeah, we got it in here. Sweet. So if I hit play, yeah, I mean, this is pretty responsive. I haven't added any materials yet, right? It's just white. But let's take a check on the face count. So if I go to export and I go to viewer, this is what I use at least. There's like a bunch of different options here for exporting out of here, including 3GS support. So here's your code for 3GS to import this model. But yeah, I use the integrated embed, the viewer here, because it has a bunch of settings like I don't let people zoom, for example. Like I just kind of set the zoom level and like that's it. You can't zoom because I figured like people are just gonna zoom infinitely out or infinitely in. Although you can also limit the zoom or limit pans or set it on a turntable. I'll go ahead and set it on a turntable. Why not? But over in overview, you hit run test. It says optimizations can be made. So this whole file is a 34 meg spline file. Total number of polygons is troubling. So all these objects have a compromising level of faces, which is a lot actually. And loading time is set to 1 minute. So I don't know what happened on the conversion there from 18 megs to 34 because there was nothing else in this scene but a light. But yeah, I'm gonna have to strip this file way more. If I hit export and I do a public URL and I hit update the public URL and then I go check this out, this is a standalone website for viewing just this car. So for this level of detail of a model, definitely would have to include some sort of loading animation or loading screen for it. There is an option for that for the viewer. So you could hit here for loading, have a spinner animation. However, like this is one car I put on my website. If I reload the page, it might load immediately because of the cookies or cache or whatever. But yeah, see here, this is still loading on the other page. If I go to a different project, I guess, to view it. Yeah, it's like even this web page isn't updating until this one finishes loading. Or I got too many tabs open here or something. So let's hit refresh. Let's maybe close what we don't need. Just want to show you the spinner animation. There it is. It's just like that little circle right there, which is, I would love it for it to be a circle that like takes up the whole, or like makes the most use of the preview screen here. But like you could see like this car on a first look, it's cool. It's cool to have this here. It's cool to navigate it. And if you look at it at just the right angle and the light hits it just so, you see the reflections around the edge are kind of janky. It's just like how low I needed to take the resolution of the body of the car. Also, I didn't split it, but you know, the grill came out all right. There we go. That loaded fully and it's doing our rotation very quickly. But yeah, once it's loaded, you know, if you have a pre-2015 computer, maybe it'll not be as smooth as this, but generally like this is pretty smooth. So yeah, I would just keep decimating in Blender in order to get this model to par. Another reason here for this, if we saw on the export on that little optimizations can be made, it looks like it made placeholder materials or exported materials anyway, or there might just be leftover materials in this file. So if I click on this car or part of the body and I see here there's a material, there's a lighting setup and a color as white, right? I have no other assets in this file but the default library. So let's start bringing stuff in. I'm going to go to metal and just pick like something that looks like car paint, maybe this blue. Yeah, that's not bad. Let's make it, I just click on the material here. Kind of went over this yesterday. We could check out. Let's make it red. And there's probably 2 slots here. There's a rainbow slot. Frequency. I'm gonna just get rid of the rainbow slot. Okay, there's something else affecting color. Maybe it's the matte cap. It's set to color. I can always turn down the intensity of that layer to see which one my culprit is. So it looks like it might be one of my Fresnel. Yeah, the Fresnel layers. So let's bring back that other layer, can't I? Undo. Yep, bring back the rainbow layer. And then my Fresnel, let's turn those. White's fine, but let's turn the bluish one. There we go. To a red hue as well. All right. Now I can just start applying that all over the car. I don't want this material here. How can I delete it? Oh, because I have more than one object selected. I have the whole thing selected. So let's go object by object. This can be a little cumbersome. This is the back. So we'll do, more specifically, it's that. I'll just turn it gray. Okay. What have we got here? I don't know what this is. Sometimes it's hard to tell what you select in here. I think that's just the origin. Okay, that was supposed to be black, I remember from the model. Yeah, this is sort of like the time-consuming piece, is materials. Just because you have to go like object by object, setting your different materials. Because when you import it, it just kind of comes with, or it creates like a placeholder spot for all your materials, so it's like it's still taking up that space and you have to go one by one. That's why it's better just to start with like separate objects and then just start, maybe even just have 3 materials. I kind of have been doing that, just kind of keeping it to 3 materials. You know, it's not like crazy shading anyway. Just make everything either a white, a black, a gray, or like some other material color. In this case, I'm just right now trying to write it out with the gray metal, dark gray metal, and red. I'll have to do a black rubber for the tires. I'm gonna search rubber. Nothing found for rubber. Oh, because I'm in metal. If I go to all and I search rubber, nothing. If I go from all to fabric, ceramic, fabric, and then pick this reddish one and make it, okay. Oh, it has an image. Well, yeah, it has an image. Can I modify the color of the image? No, but I can generate with AI. Let's try that. Tire marks. Black on black tire grooves. Oh, wow. Okay. Sure. Save as asset. Not shabby. Not too bad. I do need to change the placement of that image. So if I click on the image and I scroll down, I can change the scale. There we go. Very nice. And can I rotate it? Projection spherical? No. UV. No. Oh, I gotta change the scale now. So I guess my UVs are not optimized or did not transfer for this one. Let's do a, can we do a cylindrical projection? Is that right? No, I gotta rotate. What is happening? UV maps on Spline, not friendly. Planar, screw it. And just make it like, I don't understand how the scale thing works. Like, I think it would just be more repeating, but it's not. Like, it is repeating more, but I figured it would just be darker. Whatever, we'll keep some trippy tires. Let's move on. Maybe we'll make it black later when I get tired of looking at it. Okay, we got like a rod here. I'm just gonna delete that. I missed out on these little geometries. That's an inner piece or something underneath. Not sure what. I wish I could just click on these individual pieces, but it's always just clicking the original one. If I lock the original, it locks everything. Okay. I'm just gonna find, everything has a name, so I'm just gonna look for the body. I'm gonna go for my heavy hitters. Leave screws alone, leave the suspension alone. There's body, and then there's body 001. Oh lord, there's so much. Body 001. We'll make this red. Wheel, oh, steering wheel. We can keep that white. Oh, I accidentally moved this. That's why that doesn't look right. When did that happen? When did that happen? Oh, geez. Undo, 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 undo. Ah. Okay. Body 001. Red. Okay. And maybe we just set the wheels to the fake and trippy material. Tires. There we go. I'm looking for tire. Front, front, front. Transmission. Discs. Wheel. Wheel is metal. Oh no, that was the steering wheel. Whoops. Brake. Can I just search? Okay, so I can just search. So if you name everything correctly, there we go. There's all my tires. Oh, that makes life easier. Okay, so if you name everything correctly, like the creator of this model so graciously did, we can create one material and then we can search for the other objects that match that. So there was wheel. We've got wheel rear. That was supposed to be metal. And maybe I'll just leave the backs done. The front looks weird, not done. There we go. Also, hovering over your objects highlights them, which is super neat. As you can see right here. There we go. All right. That's as far as I'll take it for now. Because I want to show, real quick before we end the stream, is how to do some other interactions. So for example, I want this car to drive, right? Like like this ball here does in this scene, right? So in order to do that, we're gonna select our origin here. So our basically like our, is it called an empty? It's called in Blender, but it's basically just a grouping here. So I select the whole group. And I can go to, was it events? Create object, destroy object, animation. Just kidding. That's importing an animation, such as an FBX file or something. I remember there just being a button like game controls. And that was it. Conditional logic, game controls, there it is. Yes. So you go to events at the beginning or when you click or whatever you want. You gotta get down to game controls instead. And boom, here's all our game controls. We can walk or we can fly. Being a car, we're gonna walk. So we have this whole general shape that is basically the collision area for that car. So if I were to hit play, it just drops because there's no floor. So we want to add in a floor. We'll just throw in a plane. So here's a plane. We'll make it way big for our car to drive off the edge of. And now we have to make sure we set this to where we turn on physics for this plane. Collision based on visibility, we'll just set it to yes. So play, give that a second. All right, and it looks like the car's just sitting there. Yep, so I can move my car around on this surface. I can't zoom though. Let's see, play. And there we go. Our car is moving on the surface, but it looks kind of weird, right? We gotta fix this. So there's a couple of things here we gotta do. We'll select the object and our gain control collision object shows up. We want to find wherever we can move this thing. So right here, the collision capsule, it's got a size and it's got a position. So we can change the height. Oh, just kidding. It is the height, but I guess I want to change the other value, the R, radius. There we go, till the bottom line just meets the bottom of the car. Perfect. So if I hit play now, well, we're going to see it from the side view, but it's driving and it's falling flat onto, there we go. The shadow looks nice now up against the floor. Okay. I can't make the wheel spin. I don't think so. At least like not yet. We'd probably have to bring in an animation for the wheels or have the wheels animated and then have that animation just play or activate as you're moving this thing. But yeah, you can set up the desktop controls. So we have WASD and the arrows, or you can set it to mouse or both. Yeah, they added a jump function and I think a move faster function. I can have the car jump over obstacles, which is very useful when you have an obstacle and you're driving. Touch controls, so that's if someone's viewing this on a tablet, what would the controls be then? Not gonna worry about that. Camera follow. So yeah, we want the camera to follow the car. Behavior on idle, on jump. Oh, you can add another action. That's cool. So if I have, say, an animation. Oh yeah, and on move. So right here, on move, add an animation. And then you would just already have imported the animation of the wheels and you would just select it here. Your object being your tires. No results found. I mean, we have to have an animation in the first place, or have the tires selected on the first place. I'll look into that because that's more complex. I wanted to smoothen the movement. Position, speed, ground tilt, moving towards camera, auto orient, yes. Position delay, rotation delay. So maybe that's what I want, is to delay the rotation of the object. So now if I'm moving it, nope, it still just snaps to whatever which direction I'm moving it. What if I set the movement to mouse? Rotate by mouse. Whoa, okay, I'm moving the camera, but not the car. Or am I moving the car? No, because I'm not driving off the edge. Okay, yeah. Just for funsies, I mean, if you want to add in any questions to the chat, my viewer count is broken. It's like going all over the place, but the chat's clearly working. So if you want to ask any questions, then I wrap up this session. Basically just went over how to integrate this thing. I suppose I could, as we're wrapping this up, just bring this into this scene. So I'll kill this ball. Did I just kill the camera? Yep. Let's not do that. That might be important, but we'll kill the ball. And I'm going to export this as a Spline file to save a local copy. I'm hoping I can import this whole thing as it is. So you can actually export something as a spline scene. I'm calling this car. And just kidding, my download is not working. Maybe, can I just copy across? So if I hit Control C here, and then I just hit paste over here. Oh my gosh, I think it's gonna work. It froze. Yeah, that worked. There's my car. Very, very slow. Because there's a lot going on right now. And at this point, I mean, once things are loaded, or in this editor, it really depends on your computer's power and your browser power as well. Actually previewing this, or how long it'll take to load, that's depending on internet. But if I hit play now, all right, I got my car in this scene. Yeah, we can destroy some stuff. Neat. That's pretty satisfying, I gotta be honest. Flying, yeah, kicking things around. Okay, so yeah, how useful is this? Well, I guess that's up to you. Maybe it doesn't have to be useful, it could just be fun. Look at this. If the car were slightly smaller, let's do that. Can't I reset everything? Everything's still knocked over? Yeah, okay, it's fine. So I want to delete the other state. There we go. That's what was weird. Rotate this right into place. And then let's set it to just make it smaller. No new state. Okay. Just scale on all axes. Let's bring it down to like half size. So I'll just go to scale here for the whole group. Whoops. And set it to 0.5 on each axis. Why did that get huge? Oh, no, yeah, okay. That's smaller. Let's test it out. Can we do the course? Our camera's not following our car. Probably because I have to set that here. So we'll go to game controls. Scroll down to camera follow. Camera is inactive since it is not the play camera. So we want the camera, not the personal camera, which is whatever we're looking at right now, but the camera within the scene, which is just called camera. That's what we want to have follow the car. There we go. That was easy. I'm trying to do the circuit, but this arch is not cooperating. Or I guess, yeah, I'm just cheating the system here. Anywho. This has been a cool one. This has been fun. I've been working with Spline really just to integrate those models into my portfolio site. Just kind of like sort of gimmicky, but not really. Like I think it's a cool thing to show. Like, hey, I did these 3D graphics all from these 3D models with a whole graphic design package or brand guide or style guide or whatever attached to it. But here's some optimized 3D files you can actually use to apply it to gaming engines, which is essentially, I don't know that they call this a gaming engine, but the way that you prepare a 3D file here to be optimized for the web is similar to how you would optimize a 3D file for a gaming engine. So yeah, anyways, there we go. So thanks for sticking around for this video. I thought you found this interesting. Definitely the Blender part on just getting a file in here is pretty straightforward. Covered that in the first half, but I thought I'd do a little bonus here and combine with some of what I showed in yesterday's stream and show that you can do a bunch with that model right within Spline. It's just a matter of getting that model in here and then being able to essentially set up a scene in here. So thanks for watching. Thanks for those who participated in the chat. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Next week, we'll be back. As you noticed, I'm doing streams at 7 p.m. now, Eastern time. Just energy levels work better that way. So from now on, streams Tuesday, Wednesdays still on, 7 p.m. instead. And I'll catch you on the next one. Next week, I do know I want to cover again on making a Midjourney, what I used to call like a Midjourney catalog. I guess I'll still call it that, but it's kind of like I've been lately kind of developing one for specific projects or specific clients or areas that I work in. So every project that I do sort of has a Midjourney or AI vocabulary attached to it, and imagery as well, which is just useful for using it in the proposal process or in the conceptual stage, or any other application that you might need AI imagery for a project. So how I set up my documents for having a consistent use of Midjourney for my design projects is one of my streams next week, and you'll have to keep tuned in to my socials to find out what the other one's about. All right, thanks for watching. We'll call that there. Announcement.